I stood in my kitchen, staring at the old, faded wallpaper that I had promised myself I would replace. The morning sunlight streamed through the small window, illuminating the dust particles dancing in the air. It felt like a metaphor for my life. Things that once sparkled, now dulled by neglect and time. As I absent-mindedly stirred my coffee, my heart raced at the thought of my son, Mark, and his soon-to-be wife, Lauren. The wedding was just weeks away, and a whirlwind of excitement surrounded them. But amidst that excitement, an unsettling feeling nestled deep within me. "Mom, you have to promise to be nice," Mark said the last time we spoke. His tone was half joking, but I could hear the underlying urgency. It made me wonder, was it really just the wedding nerves, or was there more? I wanted to trust him, to trust her, but complications in family dynamics often threw doubt into the mix. One Tuesday morning, while Mark was at work, I decided to investigate my suspicions. It began with a simple idea, a hidden camera. I set it up in the living room, positioning it to capture the front door. Every fiber of my being screamed at me that I was being paranoid, but my gut instinct had never led me astray before. I clicked the button, hoping I wouldn't have to rely on it. "Olivia?" My friend Sarah called as she entered through the side door, her usual bright smile replaced with a frown. "You look like you've just seen a ghost." "I feel like one," I murmured, running my fingers through my hair. "I can't shake this feeling that something's not right." "About Mark and Lauren?" she asked, stepping closer. I nodded, unable to articulate the jumble of thoughts in my head. "Trust your instincts," she advised, her voice soothing yet firm. "And whatever it is, you'll face it together." That afternoon, I sat on the couch, the camera recording in silence. Hours dragged by, punctuated only by the dull ticking of the clock. Then, finally, I saw her, Lauren, slipping through the door like a shadow, just as I had suspected. I held my breath, each second stretching into eternity. She looked around, her movements casual, almost too casual, as if she belonged there, but more importantly, as if she was up to something. When she reached the coffee table, I leaned closer to the screen as she pulled an envelope from her bag. She placed it down before rifling through her things, and then, to my utter disbelief, she left without taking it. I could feel the blood drain from my face. What was it? Who was it for? The emptiness in my chest tightened. I couldn't let this go. I needed to know, so I decided to dig deeper. The next few days were spent in a blur of observations. Each Tuesday, Lauren would come, and each time, that envelope would disappear. It solidified my instincts, transforming my worries into a full-blown investigation. "Are you sure you're not jumping to conclusions?" Sarah asked the next time we spoke, concern lacing her tone. "I wish I was," I replied, the weight of uncertainty heavy on my shoulders. "But I can't ignore what I see. I just need proof." The next Tuesday was marked on my calendar with a red circle, a countdown to the truth. I waited, adrenaline coursing through my veins. When Lauren entered, it felt like time slowed. With trembling hands, I recorded everything. My heart raced as she reached for the envelope once more, but this time she didn't leave with it. Instead, she opened it and pulled out a small stack of cash. "Mark?" she whispered, glancing around suspiciously. My ears perked up at the sound of my son's name. "Are you sure about this? It'll ruin everything." My heart pounded in my chest. The words hung in the air like a thick fog. Was there really something between them? Something crumbling beneath the surface that I hadn't noticed? I felt a surge of energy rise within me, a strange blend of anger and determination. It was as if the insecurities that had plagued me for years were melting away, replaced by control. I had always prided myself on being a good mother, but as I sat in my living room, the weight of uncertainty pressed down on my chest like a heavy blanket. The hidden camera had become my secret shield. Against the betrayal I feared. I had noticed subtle changes in Mark's behavior toward me, a growing distance that felt like an ever-expanding chasm. It was unsettling, and I couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. One Tuesday afternoon, I watched the screen, my heart racing as the feed showed Lauren entering our home. She moved with a calculated grace, her heels clicking lightly against the hardwood floor. A sharp breath caught in my throat as I focused intently. She slipped quickly into the living room, knelt down, and pulled out the envelope from her bag. My mind spun with questions. What could possibly be inside? I leaned closer, half hidden behind the doorframe, feeling both a voyeur and a detective. "Mark will love this," she exclaimed, pulling out a few bills. My stomach churned. I didn't want to believe it, but with each passing moment, the evidence of betrayal mounted. I gritted my teeth as I watched her stash the envelope beneath the couch, just out of sight. As soon as she left, I rushed into the room, my heart racing with adrenaline. I knelt down and felt my fingers brush against the soft fabric of the couch. There it was, the envelope. I opened it and found cash inside. Not a lot, but enough to make my heart race with anger. The name written on the side in Lauren's neat handwriting made my blood boil. Mark's surprise. I closed the envelope, my fingers trembling. Every shred of doubt that lingered in my mind began to fade as a new feeling emerged: control. That night, I sat in my office, poring over everything I had gathered. A part of me wanted to confront Mark, to demand the truth right then and there. But another part hesitated, knowing that I needed solid proof. I couldn't just accuse him without evidence. It would only fracture our relationship further. I decided to confront Lauren first. She would be at my house again on Tuesday, and I needed to be prepared. As the days passed, I found myself sinking deeper into a dual existence. My daily life, complete with wedding preparations, was a stark contrast to the double life I was leading. I cleaned everything with a newfound ferocity, the anticipation of the confrontation fueling my actions. When the next Tuesday arrived, I was ready. I positioned myself strategically in the kitchen, pretending to organize some snacks for the upcoming wedding. My heart thrummed in my chest as I heard the familiar sound of her heels approaching. "Olivia," Lauren called cheerfully as she stepped inside. "I hope you don't mind me dropping in." "Not at all, Lauren," I replied, keeping my tone light, masking the turmoil beneath. "Just making sure everything is perfect for Mark's big day." She smiled and walked toward the living room. I followed her closely, feeling a tension in the air that was almost tangible. As she bent down to retrieve the envelope, I felt a surge of anger. "What are you doing with that?" I asked, my voice steady but laced with an edge. Lauren jumped slightly, her eyes widening in surprise. "Oh, I was just checking on my gift for Mark." Her words felt like a slap. "You mean the cash you've been leaving behind? What do you think this is, a game?" She straightened up, her confidence faltering. "It's not what you think, Olivia, I promise. I was just trying to surprise him." "A surprise, huh?" I took a step closer, my heart pounding. What kind of surprise involved hiding cash in my house? "Okay, maybe I should have told you," Lauren stammered, biting her lips slightly. "But it's not about you. It's between me and Mark." "Between you and Mark?" I couldn't hold back my frustration. "I'm his mother. I deserve to know what's going on." "I didn't want to upset you," she replied, her voice softening. "I thought you'd understand." "Understand what?" I stood at the entrance of the living room, my heart pounding as I replayed the confrontation with Lauren in my mind. Her eyes had flashed with irritation when I pressed her about the cash envelope. She insisted it was meant to be a surprise for Mark, but something in the way she spoke made me doubt her. Her tone held a hint of defensiveness, as if she was hiding something deeper. I needed more than her vague explanations. After she left, I returned to the camera footage, determined to piece together this puzzle. I sifted through the recordings, anxiety twisted in my stomach. There she was again, entering our home on a Tuesday evening, moving with practiced ease. And then, just as I had seen before, she placed an envelope on the kitchen counter. A sinking feeling washed over me as I remembered the dread I felt watching it disappear just minutes later. I leaned closer to the screen, replaying the moment again and again. It was as if the envelope had been waiting to reveal its secrets to me, but then it was gone before I could grasp any understanding. I couldn't let my suspicions fester in silence. I had to take control of the situation before it spiraled any further out of my reach, especially with the wedding looming closer each day. Olivia, you're being paranoid, I muttered to myself, pacing the room. My fingers were trembling as I grabbed my phone and typed a message to Mark. Can we talk? I need to discuss something important. As I hit send, I felt a rush of conflicting emotions. The doubt I'd been harboring grew heavier, but alongside it was an unfamiliar sense of empowerment. I was no longer the passive observer in my own life. I was taking charge, even if it felt like I was stepping into a minefield. Later that evening, Mark arrived, a smile stretching across his face as he walked in. Hey, Mom, everything okay? He asked, concern flickering in his eyes as he noticed my serious demeanor. Yeah, everything's fine, I replied, forcing a smile in return. How well do you know Lauren? Mark's brow furrowed. What do you mean? We've been together for over a year now. You like her, right? I hesitated. It's not about liking her, it's about trust. Are you sure she's being honest with you? Of course. He crossed his arms defensively. What's this about, Mom? I took a deep breath, feeling the weight of my words. I think Lauren is hiding something. I found her coming to the house on Tuesdays, and there's this envelope she leaves behind. I don't know what's in it, but it disappears. An envelope? Mark shot back, incredulous. What are you talking about? You think she's cheating on me? I don't know, I admitted, but I need you to understand that I'm only trying to protect you. Mark's expression shifted from confusion to anger. Mom, you're being ridiculous. Lauren loves me. His voice rose, the frustration evident. Maybe she loves you, but love isn't everything. There are many layers to it, I countered, my voice steady. I just want you to be aware. Sometimes the people closest to us, they lie. Mark looked away, his jaw clenched. The room felt thick with tension. You shouldn't distrust her. You don't even know her like I do, he said, his voice barely above a whisper. Then help me understand, Mark. I just need to know you're safe, I urged, my voice softening. Can we even talk to her together? Find out what's really going on. He shook his head, backing away slightly, as if the conversation was closing in on him. I need some time to think about this, okay? You're putting me in a hard spot. As he turned to leave, the air crackled with unresolved tension. Mark, please, I called after him, but he was already gone. Left alone, I felt the weight of my decisions pressing down on me. I had opened a door I couldn't close, and there was no turning back. I was determined to find out the truth, but in doing so, I feared I might lose my son in the process. Over the next few days, I clung to the feeling of control that was slowly replacing the insecurity that had plagued me. I decided to change the locks on the house, a small but significant step toward reclaiming my space. The night carried a heaviness I couldn't shake, an oppressive weight pressing down on my chest. After the confrontation with Mark, I felt the ground shift beneath my feet. My son had always trusted me, but now it felt like I was standing at the edge of a cliff, looking down into an abyss. I took a deep breath and sat at the kitchen table, staring at the remnants of dinner. The dishes remained untouched, the light overhead casting long shadows across the room. I could hear the soft ticking of the clock, as if it were counting down to something inevitable. The unease gnawed at me, and with each tick, I reflected on how my world had turned upside down. The following day, I decided I needed to gather what little control I had left. I called my friend Sarah, someone who had always provided me with sound advice. Olivia, you know you can't let fear dictate your life, she said when I explained my situation. You need to confront Mark again, but this time, come armed with the truth. Truth? What truth? I don't even know what's real anymore, I replied, my voice shaky. Start from what you know, Lauren's strange behavior. You've seen the camera footage, right? Show Mark what you found. That will speak louder than any words, she urged. Her words lingered with me. That afternoon, I spent hours analyzing every moment captured by the hidden camera. Lauren's insistent smiling, her swift, practiced movements as she slipped in and out of our home. There was something almost rehearsed in her actions. The envelope, though, I couldn't shake the feeling that it meant something more than just a surprise for Mark. When Mark came home that evening, the air felt charged, almost electric. I could tell he sensed my tension as he stepped inside. Hey, Mom, he said, trying for some casualness. What's up? Can we talk? I asked, my tone firm. I wasn't asking, I was telling. He sunk into a chair, glancing at me with a mix of curiosity and wariness in his eyes. Sure, what's on your mind? I couldn't beat around the bush any longer. I found something on the camera, I stated, watching his demeanor shift slightly. I need you to see it, Mark. What are you talking about? His brow furrowed, but there was a flicker of concern in his gaze. I pulled out my laptop and opened the video. The silence in the room grew heavier as we both watched Lauren enter, see the envelope slip from her fingers, and leave with a smirk. As the footage ended, I looked up to see Mark's face pale. What the hell was that? He blurted, disbelief washing over him. I thought you should see it, I replied, my voice steady. What does it look like to you? He rubbed his temples, frustration boiling over. It's just an envelope, Mom. You're reading too much into this. Maybe she was just trying to surprise me. Mark, the envelope didn't just disappear. Someone took it after she left, I pressed, desperate to make him see. I can't believe you installed a camera in our home. This is beyond invasion of privacy, Olivia. His voice rose, echoing with anger, but I refused to back down. Not as much as what Lauren is doing behind your back. I'm your mother, and I want to protect you. He stared at me, and for a second, I saw confusion and hurt flicker across his face. You've betrayed my trust to prove what? That you know better than me? That you think I can't handle my own life? I took a deep breath, feeling the intensity of the moment. Mark, I'm trying to help you. Look at who you're with. Do you really think she has your best interests at heart? That's enough, he shouted, standing up abruptly. You don't know anything about her. Just leave Lauren out of this. I felt my heart sink. I'm only asking you to see the truth, to open your eyes, I pleaded, but his anger blocked my words. He turned away from me, and the distance between us felt insurmountable. I can't believe this. You're the one who needs to apologize, he yelled before storming out of the room. I sank into a chair, the reality of our situation crashing down on me. I was losing my son, all while trying to protect him. I stood by the window, the morning sun filtering through the sheer curtains, creating patterns on the floor. My heart raced with the weight of what I had discovered. The camera footage from the last few weeks played in my mind like a loop, and each glimpse of Lauren entering our home filled me with a mixture of dread and resolution. I knew I couldn't stay silent any longer. Mark was due to visit that afternoon, and my stomach churned at the thought of what I needed to say. I had spent the morning pacing, mentally rehearsing my words. My first instinct was to protect him, to shield him from the truth that I had come to know, but now I felt a stronger urge to protect myself. I had to stand my ground. When the door opened, my heart raced. There he was, my son, looking slightly disheveled but still carrying that familiar smile. Yet, beneath that facade, I sensed a tension, a disconnect that had grown between us. Hey, Mom, Mark said, glancing around the room, not meeting my eyes. What's up? Mark, we need to talk, I said, my voice steady yet laced with urgency. I motioned for him to sit down, and he hesitated before plopping onto the couch. What about? He asked, still avoiding my gaze. It's about Lauren. My words hung in the air, heavy with implication. I saw the shift in his demeanor as he sat up straighter, defenses rising. What about her? Mark replied, a slight edge to his tone. Those Tuesdays, I started, watching his expression shift to one of annoyance. She's been coming here while you're at work. I've seen her, Mark, a lot. He shook his head, irritation boiling over. Mom, you're being paranoid. Lauren loves me. Why can't you just accept that? Because, Mark, I hesitated, weighing the consequences of my next words. I had always tried to protect him, but this was different. Because I found something, an envelope. She left it behind, and now it's gone. It feels wrong. Mark's eyes widened, and for a moment, I thought I saw a flicker of doubt, but it quickly vanished. You're spying on me? On her? This is crossing a line. I felt my heart sink. I'm not trying to invade your privacy. I'm trying to protect you. You're my son, and I just want to make sure you're safe. Safe from what? From my girlfriend? His voice rose, and I winced. Do you even hear yourself? You're just making this all worse. Mark, please sit down and listen to me, I insisted, my tone softer but firm. I know how this sounds, but I've seen things that don't add up. I can't just stand by and watch you get hurt. Get hurt? He laughed bitterly, anger flashing in his eyes. My own mother thinks I'm too stupid to see what's good for me. You don't even know her. Then help me understand, I pleaded, frustration spilling over. Why don't you ask her about the envelope? Why doesn't she bring it back? Why is she here when you're not? Mark stood up abruptly, shaking his head. I can't do this right now. You're making me choose between you and her. He turned toward the door, his back to me. Mark, don't walk away from this, I shouted, but he opened the door, slamming it behind him. The sound echoed through the house, leaving me feeling hollow. I sank into the couch, my hands trembling. I had pushed too hard, scared him away instead of drawing him closer. But something had to change. I wouldn't let him walk into heartbreak without trying to save him, even if it meant risking our relationship. Days passed, each one a blur of anxiety and sleepless nights. I kept replaying our argument in my head, wishing I had chosen my words more carefully. But I also felt a new resolve building within me. I could not ignore the signs any longer. It was time to take a stand. I remembered the conversations with my friends, their support echoing in my mind. They would understand my need for action. I began to plan, collecting evidence to confront Mark with facts and not just suspicions. I started documenting the Tuesday visits, noting every time Lauren slipped into our home. When I finally confronted Mark again, I would be armed with truth. When the day of the court hearing arrived, I felt a mix of fear and determination. The sun was unusually bright, casting long shadows as I stood outside the courthouse. I could feel the weight of the past few weeks pressing down on me, but I knew I couldn't back down now. This was a fight for my son's future, and I would not let him drift away into the darkness I believed Lauren represented. As I stepped inside, my heart raced. The walls felt as if they were closing in, filled with the echoes of people seeking justice. I went to check in at the front desk, and my hands trembled slightly as I handed over the necessary paperwork. The clerk shot me a sympathetic glance, and I thought of how many others had stood in this place, feeling lost and alone like I was. Olivia? A familiar voice called. I turned to find my attorney, Julia, walking toward me, a briefcase in hand. She had a reassuring presence that put me somewhat at ease. Are you ready? She asked, her blue eyes searching mine. I think so, I replied, attempting to project confidence. I just wish Mark understood why I'm doing this. Julia nodded knowingly. Sometimes, love makes people blind to the truth, but what you're doing is important. You're protecting him, even if he can't see it yet. I took a deep breath. Right, I just wish he would believe me. As we made our way into the courtroom, I could see Mark and Lauren sitting near the front. My son looked anxious, his hands fidgeting in his lap. Lauren, on the other hand, wore an air of calm that made my skin crawl. I expected her facade would crack today. The judge entered, and the room quickly fell silent. I felt a rush of adrenaline as the proceedings began. Julia laid out the evidence I had collected, from the hidden camera footage to the receipts and emails I retrieved. I listened intently, my heart pounding with each word. Miss Thompson believes that the relationship between Mark and Lauren poses a risk to Mark's well-being, Julia stated firmly. We have evidence suggesting that while Mark is out, Lauren brings unknown individuals into his apartment. This is not just an invasion of his privacy, it raises questions about his safety. The judge looked up from her notes, her expression unreadable. Do you have any corroborating witnesses? Julia nodded, signaling to a woman who had agreed to testify on my behalf. The woman stood up, her hands shaking slightly. I've seen Lauren with different men coming in and out of the apartment, she said. It's concerning. I watched as Mark's face fell. His eyes darted between me and the woman, disbelief and confusion etched on his features. I wanted to reach out to him, to explain everything, but I knew I couldn't do that here. The courtroom continued, and I could feel the tension rising, almost unbearable. Then it was my turn to testify. I stood up, my legs trembling, but my resolve solid. I only want what's best for my son, I started, my voice steady. I know he thinks I've invaded his privacy, but I saw signs of something wrong. Lauren, she wasn't who we thought she was. Are you saying you believe she is untrustworthy? The judge asked, her gaze piercing. Yes, I replied, searching for the right words. My instincts have always guided me when it comes to Mark. I sacrificed everything to ensure he had a bright future, and I can't stand by while he gets involved with someone who might bring him harm. As I finished, I caught a glimpse of Mark's face. It was a mixture of anger and confusion. "Mom, you can't just come in here and do this," he yelled suddenly, his voice echoing in the courtroom. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Mark, please," I pleaded. "Just listen to me for once. I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm trying to protect you." The judge intervened. "Mark, this is not the time for outbursts. You've been given a chance to hear the evidence." The courtroom felt cold and sterile, a place where emotions were often brushed aside for the sake of legal procedure. I could hear the soft rustle of papers and the distant hum of murmurs, but all I could focus on was the pounding of my heart. Today was the day I would finally speak the truth, not just for myself, but for Mark as well. As I took the stand, I looked out at the spectators, my stomach twisting into knots. Mark sat in the front row, his face a mixture of confusion and hurt. I could tell he was still wrestling with the reality of everything that had unfolded. A wave of regret washed over me. I had wanted to protect him, but in doing so, I had shattered his trust. The judge, a stern-looking woman with glasses perched on her nose, called the court to order. "Miss Olivia Jensen, please state your concerns regarding Miss Lauren Harris." I took a deep breath, my fingers trembling slightly as I gripped the railing. "Your Honor," I began, my voice steady but filled with emotion. "I came here today because I believe Lauren is a negative influence on my son. I've watched Mark change since he started dating her. He seems lost, and I fear for his future." Mark's eyes widened, confusion flickering across his features. I could see his internal battle, but I had to press on. "I installed a camera in our home after growing suspicious of her visits. I found her sneaking in while Mark was at work, leaving behind envelopes that I later discovered contained cash. I have evidence, text messages, video footage showing her behavior." There were murmurs from the spectators, and I spotted Lauren sitting at a table across the room. She had an air of composure, but I could sense the tension radiating from her. She shot me a defiant look, and I felt a surge of determination. "It's not just about money," I continued, my voice growing stronger. "It's about the kind of person she is. I witnessed her manipulation firsthand. Mark has changed. He's more withdrawn and resentful towards the family. I can't stand by and let her take him away from us." I looked directly at the judge, my heart racing. This isn't just a mother's instinct. This is about protecting my son. The judge nodded, encouraging me to go on, and I knew I had to dig deeper. I recalled the times Mark snapped at me, the anger in his voice when I tried to express my concerns. Mark left in a rage after I confronted him. He didn't want to listen, and I feel like I'm losing him to someone who doesn't have his best interests at heart. After my testimony, Lauren's lawyer stood up, a slick man with a smirk that made my blood boil. "Miss Jensen, you've painted Lauren as a villain, but isn't it true that you've been overstepping your bounds as a mother? Mark is an adult. He has a right to choose who he wants in his life." "I don't deny that he's an adult," I replied, feeling a surge of confidence. "But love shouldn't come with manipulation. I'm here because I love my son and want the best for him." The courtroom fell silent, the tension palpable. Mark stared at me, and I hoped he could see the sincerity in my eyes. I wasn't there to destroy him, but to save him from a path that would only lead to heartache. After a long day of testimonies from both sides, the judge finally called for a recess. I stepped outside, my legs shaky, the weight of my words heavy on my shoulders. I found a quiet corner and let out a breath I didn't realize I had been holding. "Mom?" Mark approached cautiously, his expression uncertain. I don't know what to think anymore." "Mark," I said, my heart aching for him, "I never wanted to hurt you. I just want to protect you. You deserve to be happy, but not at the cost of your well-being." He ran a hand through his hair, anguish clear on his face. "But what if you're wrong?"